Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here and joining me. Today, we are going to be making our own modeling dough. I'm Nicole Hummel. I'm a ceramic artist based here in Eugene, and I'm excited to bring a little bit of my craft to you and teach you how to make something in your own home that you'll be able to play with and also learn from. We're going to begin, I want to share that we're going to be making modeling dough. This is a lot actually like the process of making clay that pottery is made out of, using raw materials, different powders and minerals that are gathered, also water. So you're going to see it's a little bit like baking a cake. We're going to be using measuring spoons, measuring cups, a bowl, and a bunch of different ingredients that I hope you've gathered already. And if you've ever baked a cake, you're going to see this is a little bit similar to that. So before we begin, I'd like to start with an embodiment exercise. We're just going to find a seat where you are. You can put your hands on your legs, close your eyes, and take a deep breath in. Take a few breaths like this, just breathing in to the tops of your lungs and then exhaling with a sound. One more like that. And then we're going to reach our arms out to the sides. And as we breathe in, we're going to reach our arms up overhead. And then exhale, arms wide. We'll do it one more time. And then just taking a moment, closing your eyes, checking in with how your breath feels. And then open your eyes. So it can be really helpful to do these embodiment exercises, mindfulness practices before we begin so that you can be really present with the instructions and with the process. And you're welcome to come back to this at any point during the class if you feel anxious or overwhelmed. So next, what we're going to do is we are going to organize our materials. And looking down at my hands here, you can see I'm going to show you measuring cups, spatula, measuring spoons, and a bowl. And then I also have my ingredients. I have some salt, I have flour, I have cream of tartar, I have food dyes, food coloring, and I have vegetable oil. The last thing that I have is some water, which you'll warm up once I give you the instructions. So now that we have all of our materials, we're going to set up our workspace. And I'm going to move all of these ingredients over to the side. All of my measuring spoons over to the side, out of the way, so that everything will be easy to use. And I will put my bowl right in the center. So the other thing that you can do right now is you can get some hot water going. Please use the help of an adult to help you heat up the hot water. You're going to need help from the adult mentor for this process. Please do not do it by yourself. We will not be adding the water yet, but you can go ahead and get the water warming up, whether that's in a tea kettle or on the stove. So step 3 is going to be measuring out the ingredients. We're going to start with all of the dry ingredients. So the first dry ingredient that we'll add is flour. The recipe calls for 1.25 cups of flour. So I'm going to use my 1 cup measure. You can see this says 1 cup right here. And I'm going to fill that and put that in the bowl. And it's 1.25 cups. So then I find my 1/4 cup measure, which is right here. And I fill that. And add that to the bowl. So now we're all done with the flour. Next, we're going to add the salt, and this calls for a 1/4 cup of salt. So I will take out my 1/4 cup measure again. You can double check that you've got the 1/4 cup, and then I'm going to fill that with salt. Filling it with salt and putting the salt in the bowl. Then we're going to add 1 teaspoon of cream of tartar. I take my teaspoon. This spoon says 1 teaspoon right here. I open up the cream of tartar. And I take out 1 teaspoon and put that in the bowl. Close the lid there. And now that we have all the dry ingredients mixed in the bowl, we'll just stir these up. You can use your mixing spoon or spatula, whatever you have to mix with. And we just want to make sure that all of these dry ingredients are really nicely combined. You can also use a whisk for this part. So mixing it up in the bowl. All right. Then we're going to add the hot water. So if you could grab your adult mentor here for this step of the process, I have some hot water that I have in this thermos. We're going to add 1/2 cup of hot water. So I'm going to find my 1/2 cup measure. And I'm going to fill this up with the hot water. Add this to the bowl. And at the same time, I'm going to add the oil. So 1/2 tablespoon of vegetable oil. So I have my tablespoon, fill it about halfway, and add that to the bowl. So then I'm going to use my spatula again, and I'm going to start to mix this all together. You're going to see at first it's hard to imagine this all coming together and making a ball of Play-Doh, but slowly this water is going to hydrate all of the dry ingredients. It's going to we're adding water to all of the dry ingredients, and soon it will be able to form into a ball. In just a minute here, I'm going to start using my hands. This mixture is still feeling pretty hot because of the hot water. So careful. Mixing this all up. You can see it right now. It's kind of a shaggy dough. And now it's a nice warm temperature. Do a little test and touch it, and we're going to start squeezing this stuff together. So you can see I'm using my hand and I'm grabbing the dough and turning it around, squishing it together, pressing it down. And it takes a little while for this step of the process, so being patient, letting all of the ingredients mix together. You can kind of use that ball of dough to scrape down the sides of the bowl. Gather all of the flour and salt, all of the dry ingredients that are still loose. And the more you squish this and kind of open up that surface area, the easier it's going to pick up the rest of that. So you can see it's starting to really all come together now. And once you have most of those ingredients combined, we're going to take it out of the bowl and put it on the table. And I'm just going to knead it a little bit here. When we're doing this motion with bread or dough, this is called kneading. With clay, this is wedging. And we do this process in order to even out the moisture in our clay, also to get any air bubbles out. And we're just essentially mixing it so that it has a nice even consistency. So if you think about having your hands in this kind of a shape, bringing the clay towards you and then pressing it with the palms of your hands. So at this point, you might find that you still have a little bit of flour, a little bit of extra flour. Maybe yours feels really sticky still. Be patient and see if you can just continue to kind of mix this together. Maybe yours doesn't look exactly like mine. That's okay. So the next step is going to be adding the colors. And we are going to make 6 colors for the different colors of the rainbow. We're going to start by splitting this into 6 pieces. So you're going to divide your clay. First, divide it in half. And then each one of these pieces, you're going to break into 3 balls. There we go. So you have 6 balls of clay. I'm going to show you how to add the color. So at this stage, you have the option of putting on some latex gloves if you want. The food coloring is safe to touch, but you might stain your hands a little bit. It won't stay there forever. I'm not going to use gloves, but you are welcome to. So the first thing that I'm going to do when I'm adding the color is I'm going to pinch this ball of clay into a little bowl. You can see I just kind of used my thumbs and I pinched it into a little bowl. Then I'm going to start with red. I'm going to open up my red food coloring. And I'm going to do 4 drops of red in this bowl. And this food coloring a little bit goes a long way, so you really don't need that much. You can kind of mix it around there, and then we're going to start folding it. You can see I folded it. You don't see the red. We're going to fold it, press it, fold it, press it. And you're going to see that the red starts to seep out a little bit. And now I'm just going to start squishing it in my hands. This part is really fun. So you have your ball of clay, and I'm just moving it back and forth, squishing it in this hand and squishing it in this hand. And at this stage, you can see if you look at my ball of clay, it still looks very not even, right? Like you can see little parts that are red, parts that are still white. That's okay. Just going to keep mixing it. Got to be patient here. Okay, so once I've mixed this is going to be good enough for now. We can spend more time later evening out the color. If you want more color in yours, feel free to pinch out a little bit more of the bowl. For the purposes of our project, though, these colors are going to be fine. They can be kind of light. I actually prefer them. So you're going to make the next color, which is going to be orange. Pinch into a little bowl. And orange is a combination of red and yellow. So we're going to do 2 drops of red food coloring and 2 drops of yellow food coloring. Same thing here. We're going to close that little bowl, start folding it over, folding it over. And same thing, I just start pinching and squeezing. So I pass the ball back and forth from one hand to the other, squeezing the ball of clay. Already here you can see it's starting to get nice and orange. If you have any little pieces that fall, you can use your ball of clay to pick them up. Works pretty well. So there's my orange clay. I'm going to set that right next to the red over here. Now I'm going to take my third ball and I'm going to add the yellow by pinching a little bowl. Taking my yellow food coloring, I'll do 4 drops of yellow. Excuse me. When you make clay, often the color isn't added to the clay. We add color to the glazes, or sometimes we paint on underglazes on the clay. But with the Play-Doh, we get this awesome opportunity to give color to the clay before we even start working with it to make things. So this will be really useful as we move into further lessons doing modeling and sculpting of the life cycle of a plant, which I'm really excited to be sharing over the course of the next 3 lessons. So more on that later. So you can see the yellow, there we go. Yellow's all done. Then we'll do green, pinching a little bowl here. And I do have green food coloring. If I didn't, I could do a combination of blue and yellow to make green. So 4 drops of the green food coloring into the little bowl. And same process here. You're probably getting really good at this if you're following along. Folding it in. If this is taking longer for you than it is for me, that's okay. You've got time to keep exploring this. Take your time. You don't need to be working at the same pace as me. If you only get a couple colors made, that's okay. You can make more later. You can see I'm getting a little bit of stains on my hands from the food coloring. So it's easy here. You can see it's still very marbled. The green isn't very even. But if I just keep squishing and squishing, suddenly it starts to become much more even. What we're doing is we're distributing that color throughout the Play-Doh. So next we have blue, pinching a little bowl, adding the blue, 1, 2, 3, 4. And the reason we make this little bowl is so that we don't drip the food coloring all over the work surface. You might be making a little bit of a mess here on the work surface, but my idea with the little bowl is that then you get to have a vessel that contains the food dye, and where the food coloring can kind of start to soak in to the clay. Something cool to explore here when we're talking about color is that there are lots of different colors you can get from food. So here I'm using food coloring, but there are probably spices in your own cabinet that you could use to add color to the clay. Turmeric is one ingredient that will make a yellow that's actually very similar to this. Beets can also give you a really nice red color if you use the juice. So something for further exploration is to see what kinds of dyes and what kinds of colors you can get from ingredients in your own kitchen rather than food coloring. You can do some research on that. So I'm pinching out my last little bowl here. We're going to make purple. So that's going to be 2 drops of blue, 1, 2, and 2 drops of red. 1, 2. And I'm going to let that dye kind of mix around there. And then I'm going to start squishing it together. So this is our last color that we're going to be making today. Again, if you're a little bit behind, that's okay. You can finish making all your colors after I'm finished teaching. I hope you got the idea of how this works. I feel like purple always takes a while to mix in for some reason. You can also do some fine tuning after we finish the class of different colors. Say you want your red a little bit brighter. Say you want the purple with a little more red in it. You can add a couple more drops of the red. But for our purposes, we're all finished making our clay. So next, we're going to talk about storing the clay. Step 6, storing your sculpting dough, storing your modeling dough. The dough that you just made will keep for a couple weeks. So if you are following along the lessons with me for these next 2 weeks, this will stay good. I recommend keeping it in an airtight container, so either a Ziploc or a Tupperware, and sticking it in the fridge. That way, each time you use it and your hands kind of get whatever they've got on them into the clay, it doesn't get a chance to mold. That being said, I recommend washing your hands each time before you use your modeling dough. So keep it in the fridge, put it in an airtight container, and it should be good for the duration of our class. So finally, you can turn back to my face, and I want to just invite an opportunity to close your eyes and think back about this lesson, how it felt to do it. You can close your eyes and think for a moment about what your favorite part of the class was. Was it mixing the ingredients together, adding the color to the clay, maybe kneading the clay, kneading the modeling dough, sculpting dough? Just thinking back to what your favorite part of the class was. And thinking also like what it felt like to make your own material. There's something kind of cool being able to do that from scratch. So thank you so much for tuning in today. We are going to be continuing over the next couple weeks to basically use this clay to model the stages of a plant, the life cycle of a plant from seed to fruit, and all of the stages in between. So you're going to have the opportunity to learn a little bit about those different, the life cycle of a plant, and also have a lot of fun using the modeling dough to sculpt everything from flowers to a vine. It'll be really fun. So I hope that you can join me and follow along. Feel free to also play with this in your own time. If you feel inspired, see if you can make different shapes. Try 2D and 3D shapes. The possibilities are really endless, and the only tools you need at this point are your own hands. So I hope that you enjoyed this class, and I hope to see you tune in down the line. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone.